Welcome to another episode of the Doctors Building Wealth podcast. Today, Kenji and I are so excited to have Dr. Mark Allen joining us. He is a physician, serial entrepreneur, an expert in AI, a dear friend, and he is speaking at our Prosperity Conference in March of 2025. And so we're so excited to be able to talk to him today about AI and real estate. I should mention, besides all those other things, he is a real estate investor too and owns an inn. So I'm sure we'll hear a little bit more about that. Welcome, Mark, to our show.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
So, Mark, can you share with everyone how you got interested in AI and how you see it kind of impacting real estate?
Yeah, so I've been interested in AI for a long time. Now, I became a doctor because I wanted to help people, but I saw that you had a scale problem. You can only help people one at a time while you're working. So I got involved in a research project starting in 1995 using AI software to help doctors to make better patient care decisions. So we showed in clinical trials that when doctors used our systems, that they were twice as fast. They ordered more of the right tests and treatments, so the quality went up. But they ordered far fewer of the wrong tests and treatments. So the cost went down when you looked at all the tests and treatments, and the labor costs went down by 50%. So I'm sold. This is the future of medicine. So I worked on this for many years as a medical student and during my residency. And then I left halfway through my residency, which was in emergency medicine, to start an AI software company with the idea I'm going to transform healthcare delivery. Every doctor should use these kinds of systems to help make their decisions. And so fast forward, that company found it was really hard to sell into healthcare that time, but it was really easy to sell into insurance and banking and government and many different industries. And so the company grew very nicely across many different industries, had a successful exit with that more than 10 years later, and did a number of things for the acquirer. And then I left that and I asked that same question: how do I help now people as deeply as possible and as many people as possible on this planet? I got into the world of biotech and longevity medicines, and so had an exit with that recently, and then jumped back into AI. So as I looked at the difference between then and now, so this new generation of AI that has been mind blowing. It's been out for just a little more than a year now. It is the most powerful and transformative technology, this current generation of generative AI, than that has ever been released on humankind. So to really understand what this is, for all of humanity, our intelligence has been relatively flat. I mean, there's people, Newton, Da Vinci, smart as anybody alive today, right? But AI has been growing exponentially in intelligence. So the systems that I was using, you can hardly tell. It took a lot of work to make them really intelligent. You could make them, and they've just grown and grown and grown. And so here's human intelligence, and here's the crossover right now. Okay, where now the AI can pass all the medical exams, right? The specialty exams, but not only medical exams, the legal exams, the exams in any profession, right? They can answer any question about almost anything now, and they're improving exponentially. They're continuing to improve exponentially. So I say that this AI is the most important technology to master today. So it can help you to be way more productive. It can help you to scale your business. It can help you to be more successful as a real estate investor. And we're going to go into lots of examples there.
Awesome. Okay. Well, I'm sure people are excited now to hear more about AI and real estate. So, can you talk about specifically how you see AI transforming real estate based on your experience as a real estate investor?
So it already has been happening, okay, behind the scenes and in tools that we use, right? But it's now becoming a tool that we can use for any purpose. Okay, so what are some things like, all the market data that, for example, the Zestimates that Zillow provides as an example. It's just when you shop, the recommendations that are there. So, it's been around for a while, but what's changed now is our ability to use it. So our ability to just ask it questions and provide it answers. And so the power of the AI you think about this, it's been trained on the corpus of knowledge that's available to the internet. And so really what determines the power of what you can use is the questions that you can ask. So just be creative about those questions that you can ask. So you think about in the field of real estate, it's like, what do you want to know? What do you want to do? Right.
I know,
So
I know you have a structure for asking those questions. So can kind of talk to people, let's say they go into ChatGPT, and I know we'll talk a little bit about where they should be going to do these things, but let's say they go into ChatGPT, can you talk to them a little bit about how to structure questions? Because I know a lot of people have concerns about how to do that well.
sure, yeah. So that skill is called prompt engineering. And so it's really helping to frame those questions. And so a lot of people now have been exposed to it, but a lot of people just use it like a search engine, you know, ask it a very, very simple question. Well, if you can frame your prompt and structure that prompt, you will get much better answers. Why? Because think about it, it knows everything about everything. So it doesn't necessarily know that you're talking about real estate per se. It has to infer that context, and it's pretty good at inferring. But if instead you tell it, you are a real estate expert, specifically focused in a specialist in making money in short-term rentals. So you understand what kinds of deals you can make money in, you really understand risk and the kinds of deals that can lose money and the reasons why. So with that, help me to analyze new markets for my real estate investment. I have a total of about 200,000 capital to invest, and I want you to tell me the right markets to invest in. And start out by asking me questions first before you start telling me the answers. You see what kind of questions it starts to answer. So it might ask you, where do you live now? What experience do you have? Do you know what? I don't know. I mean, we could do it. I don't know. I've not done that specific query, but that query, you can imagine you're going to get a lot better answer than a query of where should I invest? What market should I invest in real estate?
Mm. Yeah, I think that's really cool. I've not heard many people, or I actually never heard anybody say, ask it to ask you questions to get a little bit more detail of what it needs to do to be able to really give you a phenomenal answer. So I think that's a really key takeaway for people to hear from this interview.
Yeah, I was going to say that for me, what I use ChatGPT almost every day, really every day, multiple times a day. And one of the things that I realize is that I'm actually feeding it a lot of information. And I think that that is essentially what you're saying is that you can ask ChatGPT to ask you questions so you can provide it some information. But what I do is, I actually provide it information based on my knowledge in real estate and taxes and those types of things. So I feed it a lot of information, and that's how I get the best results is when I provide it guidance, some data, some information that, like in your short-term rental example, I might say, this is the type of loan that I'm thinking about using. So I might have $200,000, but I want to give it specifics on the type of loan that I'm planning to use, because then it will then give me a different answer if it's a 10% down versus a 25% down. Completely different answer, right? So I really realize that you need to feed it information in order to give you the best answer.
Yeah, yeah. And so going back to your question, Leti, so we teach this prompt engineering methodology that's called create, and create goes through some steps, an acronym. So it says first, C is context. So the context is you are a real estate professional who is an expert in short-term rentals. That's context. Okay. R is result. What result do you want from this? Okay. E is examples. So what examples can you give? And they use something that a term called shots. So if you give an example of, here's an example of this is a market that I currently like for these reasons, that's going to help it, right?
Mhm.
And then create. A is audience. Okay. T is tone, which is really important if you're writing something, having it write something for an audience. Okay. And then E is expand. So you should expect when you get the first result back that it's going to be a partial answer. A lot of times it just blows you away. I can't believe that it provided that. But then you might want to narrow it down. So you might want to say, okay, that's great. Now, tell me specifically within the market of Austin, okay, why you think it is the best and what are the best neighborhoods. Right. So you can continue to have a dialogue like that. And by the way, it remembers the context from that conversation.
Yes, that's really a great point for everyone to hear. You can modify and modify and modify further by asking additional questions with it remembering that context, and that allows you to get the best answer.
Yeah, I think people judge it too soon. They see the first output and they go, "This is not what I wanted." But yeah, like you said, you gotta keep asking it questions and improving the response. And that's exactly what I do over and over again.
Yeah. And so just to give you guys an example, one of the things we've seen people very commonly use AI for that Mark was talking about tone is writing like your short-term rental description for Airbnb, for example. And you can like create more and more versions of that, what initial spit out, and make it better, giving it additional detail about the tone that you want it to use.
Or responding to like a guest feedback, and you want to make sure that it has the right tone. You don't want to, you don't want to, get emotional, right? You want it to be respectful, and you also want it to, also be logical, right? You want to kind of feed it exactly the type of response, the tone that you want in the message.
Absolutely. Yeah, those are two great use cases that you've got. Now, a key thing here, coming back to this, is the more that you feed into it, the better it's going to be. So if you could tell it to, I've got this property, it's 3 bedrooms located here, and it will make something up. That's called hallucination, right? Term for that. You can tell it, you learn to tell it, don't hallucinate, only build what you're saying based upon the facts that I provide you. But the more facts that you provide, so you can describe it and you can speak to it. So there are a few different ways of speaking to it, but so you don't have to type everything. But to the degree that you already have documents and descriptions, so you might have written something up, you feed that in, you say, make this better. Or I've got this that I've already written up. Here's from, the sale. If you haven't made a bunch of significant improvements, but there's probably something there. Say, here's the sale, and here are the improvements that I've made. Well, you list them out. Okay, now create the description.
Now, you talked about how companies are using AI in the background, like Zestimate, right? And then you also talked about how now, regular real estate investors, not companies, are able to use it. And we had a couple use cases. We talked about, your short-term rental description, responding to customer feedback. We also talked about maybe helping you with market choice. But what are some other use cases you've seen of regular real estate investors using AI to help them with real estate investing, and maybe even personally with your in, how have you used it to help you enhance your business?
Standard operating procedures is a great one.
Mm.
Write up standard operating procedures. For me, for this business, and help me to understand what I should be thinking about in terms of maintenance. So it's really almost every aspect of the business, and it really depends upon where you are in your maturity. But you could, if you're at the very early levels of maturity, I just bought this property, right? And help me to understand what to do next.
I like that. Yeah. Yeah. I find a common question in our communities. People are always asking, like, what am I missing? Right. And I think that's a great question for AI. And you give it some context about like what the things that you've already thought about and say, okay, what else? Right. What else am I missing? What else am I forgetting? And I find that to be one of the best uses for certainly for me, just to make sure I don't miss anything.
Precisely.
Yeah. Nice.
So we mentioned ChatGPT. What other tools do you think are really helpful for people with real estate investing?
Yeah, one of the ones, so there's there's these large language models, which primarily deal with language. Okay. And then there's tools that deal with images, there's tools that deal with video. And what's interesting is they're starting to be combined. So, first it was just text to text, and now it's text to image and image to text and data analysis all in the same tools, right? And so you can use these image creators as an example to create beautiful images. You can use them to now the latest capabilities is you can feed them an image and you can have them edit that image. Right? So take this image and remove the telephone pole. I want, instead of the same image, but I want a summer background to it and a blue sky. Right? Super, super powerful. I created recently, I wanted to create, and for the inn, activity pages. So what are some activities that are nearby? And so I actually created, because it was so easy to do, I created multiple different activity pages. So I created different seasons, and then I created activities for families, accessible activities, just a ton. I think we have some of the most of any site in our area, and this is Killington in central Vermont, in terms of activities, which, all that can drive SEO to our site and drive more traffic. So I had it write all of that, and then I also had it create images. So the images, so we had used and we still have a digital marketing partner, but the ski area here in Vermont, it looks very different than a lot of ski areas. So they have access to these stock images, but it didn't look anything like this area. So, now you can use Midjourney is kind of the very best, but it's like I was reading something like there's a horse race of like which is kind of cool to see that competition in the market. So they're getting so good. They're so photorealistic, but you can put into Midjourney as an example, is the one that I use. You say, show a skier skiing in powder in Vermont, right? And it now looks like Vermont. So it's got the green pine trees and so a lot of the trees that lose their leaves, combined without cliffs, right? We don't really have that kind of cliffs here. So, just absolutely perfect images. And I did the same thing for spring skiing. So I wanted to create a spring skiing special, and I created a spring skiing image. And then I use a little animation tool to animate the powder flying out from it. So you can do all that like super easy. And I'm not like a graphic designer. I couldn't do any of that. But now I can do it with AI very easily.
Yeah, and I can see that affecting, stock images. If we don't need any stock images for our businesses anymore, oh my gosh, because we can create everything new, it just will give it such a better feeling because things actually match the feel we want them to have. But also I'm thinking about virtual staging. That's something that a lot of us do for our long-term rentals, where we want to improve our marketing. We don't want to just have pictures of empty rooms. And so we will pay to get virtual staging for our properties. It's not expensive, but it's just putting in furniture. And I can see that we'll be starting to be able to do that. And also with short-term rentals, changing the, appearance of the season behind, like so valuable. That's just going to make you, stand out. And if you do that with some frequency, maybe every quarter you go and change the images and make them match the season. Like how cool is that to be able to do?
Cool. Yeah. Stock images. I remember the days of stock images where I remember looking through stock. It just takes you so long to look at it. You literally say exactly what you want and boom, it creates it. And it's yours, right?
Yes.
Amazing. And so if somebody were wanting to see the different tools available, like is there a place you can go to kind of go, okay, for for images or for video or for text, these are the best tools. Is there anything like that? Or is it changing and so rapidly that there's not something that kind of evaluates the tools and kind of lists out the best ones for, for whatever purpose, whatever goal you're trying to achieve?
Yeah, it changes so rapidly is one of the problems. So, I co-created a training and certification program to teach people how to use all of these generative AI tools. And so as part of that program, we're constantly updating it. So we have several people, and I even our whole audience of hundreds of people that have gone through the training program that are always saying, hey, this is the newest tool, this is the newest capability. And so as soon as something we use it, in our community, then we start to teach on it as well. So, so that's one way. I mean, I think that there's, clearly there's news. Like as soon as you start following the news, like I get hit. And this is one of the fastest growing industries ever. So you're getting hit by things all the time of, hey, this new capability just came out. This new capability. It seems like every week there's many different new capabilities that come out. So, on coming back to the large language model, so we call it the broader term for large language model is a foundation model. So foundation model that can handle generative AI. So what is generative AI? So it's trained on massive data sets, and it can generate on the fly, kind of like as we speak, we can generate those words on the fly. So we don't think everything we're going to say and then say the full sentence. Right? So that's how generative AI works. And so the new foundation models, they can take in data of various forms and they can output data of various forms. So not just text to text or image, text to image, that sort of thing. Now you can take an image and analyze that image and produce text. Explain what this image is. I actually did that. I had a lesion on my leg that was like itching and not going away. And so I thought it was a bite, so I took a picture of it and I had it analyzed and tell me what a differential diagnosis is and what to do about it. And so there was, it's stuff like that. It's pretty impressive what it can do, and it's just getting better all the time.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So where do you think that things are going to go for real estate investors in the next 5 to 10 years? I mean, maybe 10 years is too far out. Where do you think it's going to go in the next year?
Oh gosh, yeah, that's I think the best way to predict this. And so in the next year, so I think that people that are using AI have a significant advantage today in doing things better, faster, and cheaper than people that are not using AI. And I think that's true in real estate, and it's true in just about every area. So so I would say that start using it is kind of the message. Learn how to use it, start using it, start playing with it. And it's like a lot of things with mastery. It's like, the first bit of it's a little arduous, and then as you start to do it more, you really gain momentum, and then you start to gain mastery where you're like way better and you can do way more than other people. It's like you can make magic with it. It's like you see when I demoed it at your conference, is like I'm showing people that's just mind-blowing what you can do. It appears like magic.
Yeah, I thought that was really powerful what you did, which is you literally took someone through creating a business and all the different tools you could use to create that business and get it up and running very, very quickly. And I think it's very applicable to real estate investors too, because we buy a property, it's a mini business, and we want to get it up and running very quickly. We want to get the marketing, we want to be able to do the property management. Maybe we have a VA and we want to get the SOPs for our VA on that property. All those things AI can help you do now. And so it's really going to dramatically change that part, and also the search part, right? Probably we're going to be searching differently for properties in the near future using AI.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so talking about that is that so what has happened with the first large language model. So ChatGPT was the first one that was released and really blew up in November of 2022 was when it was released, and it just keeps getting better and better and better and better. So the one of the issues with it though is it's not real time.
Yes.
So and you can actually ask it. It's knowledge base is changing. What is the date of your knowledge base? And it will tell you. But it does have the capability to hit the internet. So you can ask it, search the internet, but that internet search is somewhat limited. So there are AIs in place right now that are much more real time. So Perplexity is one that is much better in real time information. It's nowhere near as good on reasoning, right? So you can use the two in combination. You can use that. And then another one that's also really good with real time news is Grok, which is the X, former Twitter one, which is getting better and better. So it's like there's this horse race, and then there's Claude, which is Anthropic. It's another company that was created by people that spun out of OpenAI, and that one is the best for writing and matching personality style. So I don't know if you wanted to talk about what the project that we worked on together and your perception of that, but that's where we found that Claude was way better in matching your writing style than ChatGPT, as an example.
Yeah, we had Mark help create a sales AI for us, and he created it in ChatGPT, and then he also created it in Claude, and Claude was substantially better, added a lot more personality into it. And just sometimes I find ChatGPT writing to be kind of corny, and I didn't find that with Claude. So I thought is substantially better. And I think this is the key, guys. You just got to go start exploring multiple different platforms and just learning to use this and getting familiar and knowing there's going to be a lot of change. But if you don't start now, you're going to be way behind in even 6 months compared to what a lot of other people are doing. So
Yeah, I wanted to give one piece of advice for somebody who is interested in doing it. I think one of the keys is really making sure that you ask this question of how can I use AI, right? In everything you're doing, because probably there's a use case for every situation. And most of the examples that we provided are the common examples, but there's a whole host of other examples, unlimited number of use cases, I think. You just have to remember to ask the question, how can I use AI? And I think that there was one, we listened to a speaker one time who said, AI, just think of it as the smartest person in the room. And like you said, at some point it is going to be smarter than human intelligence, right? But it's the smartest person in the room. And just think of it as another person in the room who you can consult on every question that you have or every situation that you're going through, and you can ask it their advice. And it's like almost like a board member. You can ask their advice for how should you deal with a certain situation, or how should you kind of improve something that you're trying to improve, right? So that'd be the one kind of suggestion would be just ask yourself that question: how can I use AI in this situation? And just don't forget to ask that question.
Here's a great example of one that I used very recently. I had an issue with a client, and so we have a contract, we have a lease agreement. And so I said, here's the lease agreement, and here's the issue. What do you recommend that we do?
as a lawyer, did you ask it to be a lawyer, or what's the context you gave it?
Except that you are an expert real estate lawyer. That's the
Nice.
Yeah.
So from that, it gave me, it was a calculation of a refund, and they had a certain view of the refund that was way higher than I interpreted it. But, it saved me a huge amount of time and energy for ChatGPT to give me that answer. And it actually confirmed, if it would have interpreted their way, then I would have, been okay, let's just accept this. But it interpreted exactly as I did, but then it gave the explanation and broke it down in way more detail than I probably could have ever done, no matter how much time I spent on it. So, and then I sent that letter back and it resolved it.
Amazing.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for your time, Mark. I just want to say that you're going to be at the Prosperity Conference again in March of 2025, and we're so excited to have you talking about AI and to be one of our speakers who will help, the people who are real estate investing. But I know a lot of you are also entrepreneurs, and the content that he'll be delivering will be applicable for all of you. For those who want to get a hold of you, how would be the best way for them to reach out to you, Mark?
The best way, I think, is I can share an email address, or is that the best way? So my email is mark.j as in John, F as in Frank, .allen @gmail.com. That's ALLEN @gmail.com. And so like I said, I can help to guide you. So I coach a lot of people in helping to learn and apply AI specifically into whatever kinds of problems that you've got. So it's kind of a fast track to be able to use it with a lot of hand holding. So that's one of the things that I enjoy doing. And then also taking on projects if you've got something a bit more complex that you want to do. I've got a lot of skills, and I've got a team of developers that can also help to take on complex projects.
Perfect.
Amazing.
Thank you so much, Mark, for your time. We appreciate having you here.
Thank you so much for being here.